That day after school, I met a god. He asked, what would you choose between 750 marks in Gaokao and 7,500 lakh yuan? What was there to think about? To pause even for a second would be an insult to 7,000 yuan. Who would give up on that much money for Gaokao? But I chose 750 marks. The only reason was that a day before, I'd seen a post asking, what would you choose between 17,500 lakh yuan in cash and full marks in Gaokao full marks? I thought it was a stupid question and commented, if you choose, will you really give up? Then the person who posted replied, try choosing first, and I laughed. There's no shortage of graduates these days. With 17 lakh yuan, I could hire 10,000 people. Yes, if I get full marks and become the topper, that's a different matter. He immediately wrote, just choose full marks. In Gaokao, you'll definitely get full marks and a new ability to solve problems. But if I tell anyone about this, my strength will be lost. I simply replied to his mysterious words, if this is true, then I'm going for full marks. If I become the topper, 18 generations of my ancestors will be overjoyed. After writing this, I put my phone aside and went to sleep. The next day, as soon as I received the question paper, my whole body trembled at the first glance. Full mark answers to questions I never knew came to mind. I started writing and saw that my sloppy handwriting had become like that of a calligrapher. My eyes widened. This was the ability to earn marks from my handwriting. Otherwise, even with the correct answer, poor handwriting would still result in a mark or two being deducted. I finished the paper at lightning speed and came out looking very handsome on the paper. Wow. The handwriting was still amazing. With this skill alone, I could become a famous calligrapher. I had achieved such tremendous ability in the language paper alone. So what was the worth of 7,700 lakh yuan? That afternoon, I excelled in the math exam. Hundreds of solutions to every question would spring to mind in an instant, many of which were beyond my comprehension. As soon as the exam ended, the entire center was plunged into mourning. Oh my god, the last question was in advanced math. Have the paper makers gone mad this year? In every subsequent exam, I performed just as brilliantly, and countless world-changing abilities flooded my mind. Each time I was the first to leave the exam center, the other students were astonished. This boy might have brought a blank copy, but I didn't care. Only my mysterious back remained at the exam center. A few days later, thousands of teachers were checking answer sheets in front of computers. Shin Chu, head of the Southwest evaluation team, repeatedly explained that even one wrong evaluation could change a child's life. Suddenly, a teacher stood up. Chen Chu scolded me. What are you doing? Keep quiet. The teacher, in a trembling voice, said, Group Leader Chen, report immediately. We may have found this year's first full-time essay copy. A few days later, when the math exam began, another teacher shouted, There's something wrong with this answer sheet. All the answers are correct, but I can't figure out how to solve them. The same scenario repeated itself with the other examiners. Finally, when the results were announced for each village, I actually got full marks and ranked first in the entire country. This news created a sensation across the country. All the students fell to their knees and cried, Oh my god, what has happened? We, the weak in our studies, turned out to be just nominal students. The real topper was someone else. But even more perplexed than the students were the teachers reviewing the answer sheets. They couldn't understand how I had solved the math problems. The world had never seen such a solution method before. In no time, officials from major universities across the country were vying to be the first to send me an admission letter. Meanwhile, at home, my father told my mother, see the news? A student named Change has scored a perfect 750. His name is the same as our son. I emerged from the room smiling and asked, could it be that I was the Change? As soon as I showed them my results on my mobile phone, both of them were stunned. Father panicked and ran out. I'll go and see if our ancestors' graves have been torn apart. I stopped him and said, I won't go to university yet. I'll take the Gaokao exam again next year, and I want the examination committee to make the question paper even more difficult this time. For others, Gaokao is a means of university admission, but for me, it's an opportunity to strengthen myself. Each exam provides me with the highest scientific knowledge of the subject. If the technologies banned in the world were ever included in Gaokao's question paper, all our problems could be solved. But I couldn't tell anyone this secret. After much persuasion, when I promised to go to university the following year, my parents finally relented. The very next day, a crowd of journalists and officials from the country's top universities gathered outside my house. As soon as we left, everyone started making offers to bring me to their place. We're talking about waiving their entire fees and providing housing. Another was promising a monthly allowance of 30,000 yuan. Southwest University even announced an independent laboratory, a research fund of 300,000 yuan annually in this facility would be provided without admission. Hearing this, even other universities were stunned. Then I said quietly thank you to all the teachers. But I've decided to return to Village Cal for another year. Silence fell upon hearing this. Journalists immediately rushed to me with microphones. Why aren't you going to university even though you've scored full marks? I smiled and replied, this year's question paper was so easy. I couldn't even demonstrate half my potential, yet I still scored full marks. The interview aired, shaking the entire nation. Next year, students from Village Cal began cursing me on social media, while even the experts who set the question paper were furious. After the interview, I received a total of 1.5 million yuan in rewards from the provincial government and several institutions. People on the internet started saying, now I understand why I wasn't going to university. With my ability, I could score full marks next year and win a prize of millions of yuan again. But I ignored these things because I wanted to go on a date with Wen. We had liked each other since school, but she had never accepted our relationship because of Gaokao. Now that I had become the national topper, we started our relationship. A year had passed and no time, and the day of Gaokao had arrived for the second time. As soon as I reached the examination center, dozens of journalists gathered around me again. What do you think will change this time? How many marks will I get? I smiled and said, just get full mark. Hearing this, the journalist jumped with joy. He had even thought of the headline. As soon as I reached the examination center, reporters surrounded me. Referring to my challenge to the question-making team last year, they asked why many students were upset because of the difficult paper this year. Look, is there any misunderstanding? I replied without hesitation, there is no misunderstanding. I'm not just talking about the question-making team. Everyone here is weak in front of me. Hearing my words, all the journalists were stunned. Then someone noticed Wen standing next to me. Without hiding anything, I took her hand and said with a smile, this is my girlfriend. Cameras flashed continuously as journalists knew that a single photo could multiply the popularity of a story. Soon the village session began. As soon as I saw the question paper, the answer to every question came to mind automatically, and there was no room for error. This time I adopted a new handwriting style, but it was so brilliant that it could have started a new calligraphy tradition. My pen moved relentlessly. The two invigilators were intrigued and came to look at my answer sheet. They were stunned by my handwriting. When they looked at the essay topic, they realized that this year's toughest challenge had been presented. They knew that countless PF had tried to write a sequel, but none could reach the level of the original, whereas I kept writing without a moment's pause. After filling out the entire answer sheet, his anxiety grew. He became desperate to know the rest of the story. Meanwhile, the other candidates stared in astonishment when they saw me submit my answer sheet ahead of schedule again. A few days later, the answer sheets began to be evaluated. All the teachers agreed that it was beyond their capacity to evaluate my essay, so it was sent directly to the review committee experts. Upon reading the essay, the literary critic Zhang Menglin angrily exclaimed, "Where's the next part? Where's the next part?" He felt as if he had finally found the true sequel to Dream of the Red Chamber. But the answer sheet had run out of space. Chen Qi, the head of the review team, calmed him down and asked for his marks. Zhang Menglin, without hesitation, gave just one answer, scoring full marks. The results were announced, and I once again became the village topper in the entire country. On the internet, opponents began demanding that my essay be made public, alleging fraud. The Ministry of Education immediately released the full essay. As soon as it surfaced, it went viral on every major platform. No one could believe this work was written by a 19-year-old. Fans of Dream of the Red Chamber began demanding a sequel, while calligraphy experts declared my handwriting a new style. The situation escalated when Zhang Menglin of the Dream of the Red Chamber Association himself came to meet me with journalists. He said, ask for any honorarium you want. Right now, no one but you can truly advance this novel. Seeing so many elders so distressed by this, I finally agreed. Then I picked up pen and paper and began writing in front of everyone. I told Zhang Menglin that I needed a small favor from him. He was overjoyed at the time and said that if it were in his power, he would never refuse, but he froze upon hearing my request, I wanted him to convey my message to the question paper making team. Next year, the village con paper should be made as difficult as possible. Zhang Menglin stared at me for a few moments. He couldn't understand why I was so insistent on Gaokao. But in the end, he simply said he would try. After this, both parties reached an agreement to purchase the rights to the sequel to Dream of the Red Chamber for 50 million yuan. Meanwhile, my video exacerbating Gaokao's difficulties went viral online. People began criticizing me, and several institutions issued statements calling me overly arrogant. But 3 days later, as soon as the sequel to Dream of the Red Chamber hit the market, it sold out instantly, silencing my detractors. Meanwhile, Yan Tianqi, one of the country's biggest financial tycoons, became emotional while reading the book. He immediately had his secretary look up my details. Upon seeing the video of the interview, he discovered that his daughter, Wenwen, was my girlfriend. Instead of getting angry, he smiled and said, "This guy has reached this level and hasn't even met his future father-in-law." He immediately arranged for me to meet his daughter. Sometime later, Wenwen was having dinner with her father in a luxurious hotel. She started to praise me, but Yan Tianqi interrupted her, saying, "You must work hard. Otherwise, how will you be worthy of such a wonderful son-in-law? How can you make him your husband from now on?" Wenwen was completely shocked. Then he flatly declared that he accepted the relationship but wanted a visiting gift in return, the original handwritten manuscript of Dream of the Red Chamber. Wenwen said she couldn't decide that, she would have to ask him first. Yan Tianqi immediately agreed, and as she left, she simply said, "Speak to me kindly," quote. Returning home, Wenwen told me everything. I smiled and said, "I already knew it. As for the manuscript, I'd already given it to her. Now who to give it to or how to keep it is entirely her decision." Hearing this, she breathed a sigh of relief. She only wanted my permission so that there would be no hesitation between us. Afterward, we both went to meet Yan Tianqi. Initially, the atmosphere was quite normal, but suddenly he asked, "When are you two registering your marriage?" Hearing this, Wenwen's tea spilled straight out of her mouth. I awkwardly reminded her uncle, "We're only 19. Yan Tianqi, rubbing her forehead, said that while we're not old enough yet, both families can agree on an auspicious date in advance. Hearing this, Wenwen immediately felt embarrassed. I felt uncomfortable and said, "Uncle, it's not right to be so hasty." But Yan Tianqi smiled and calmed me down. He said he knew it wasn't right to do so, but if we don't decide on such a good son-in-law in time, someone else might snatch him away. Hearing this, I was speechless for a moment. I calmed him down in the same way, made an excuse, and left with Wenwen. Shortly after, the results for the village exam were announced again, and I once again scored full marks. All the major universities in the country sent me invitations for admission, but I declined them all. Furthermore, I publicly declared that the village exam was still very easy, and that next time, it should be made as difficult as possible because I wanted to acquire new knowledge this way and advance the country in technologies currently under external restrictions. But I couldn't tell anyone this secret. Otherwise, my special ability would be lost forever. After hearing this, people on the internet started calling me even more arrogant than before. Some even came to my house to scold me. But my thinking had now gone much further. With the 50 million yuan I received from the sequel to Dream of the Red Chamber, I immediately bought a luxurious villa. I had only one goal in mind. If the next village-to-village questions were more difficult, perhaps I would gain enough new knowledge to reach the truth about the missing plane. However, I knew that this would be nearly impossible for many years to come. With time, every clue fades, and eventually a time comes when mere calculations cannot provide answers. That requires knowledge far beyond this era. Even in my previous life, I constantly monitored this